bringing winds over 200 miles per hour and a 15-foot storm surge.
Golf ball-size hail leads to delays for some holiday travel plans, while floods leave a New York library in ruins.
We have items in here that are priceless.
We have important weather lessons in today's edition of Social Meteorology.
We've got heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
And college football season is here. We'll check the forecast for this weekend's biggest games.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Lindsay Mastis. Chances are growing that we could soon have at least one or even two tropical storms or hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean. We have been watching this first disturbance for several days. It's risen from a 20% becoming a named storm to a 50% chance today, and if it does, it is likely to stay south of the U.S. Further east, there's another disturbance, and it has just a 20% chance of forming over the next week. In Japan, at least 4 people are dead and 100 injured after a typhoon made a landfall on Thursday. Officials say there is a great risk for floods and landslides in southern Japan after the storm dumped nearly 3 feet of rain over 3 days. The winds have weakened, but the rain is expected to continue for several more days as the storm slowly pushes across the island nation. More than 4 million people remain under evacuation orders today. 89 years ago, one of the strongest hurricanes in U.S. history made landfall in the Florida Keys. It is now known as the Labor Day storm of 1935. Emily Gracie looks back at the historic storm.
In 1935, life in the Florida Keys was a unique blend of natural beauty, maritime tradition, and a vacation lifestyle. Despite the Depression, tourists flocked to the Keys by way of Henry Flagler's Overseas Railroad. On Labor Day 1935, the nation's first recorded Category 5 hurricane struck the Florida Keys, killing hundreds and leveling buildings up and down the island. In a time before weather radar and satellites, residents of the Keys relied on word of mouth and weather instrument. They heard a storm hit the Bahamas and started watching the barometer. As the pressure fell, they prepared for the worst, and it arrived on Monday, September 2nd. The pressure dropped to 892 millibars as the storm intensified, bringing winds over 200 miles per hour and a 15-foot storm surge that washed away 30 miles of railroad. On one of those rail cars were hundreds of World War I veterans that were living and working in the Keys at the time. The railroad was never rebuilt, but evidence of it remains if you drive down the Overseas Highway today. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie.
And this week marks 2 hurricane anniversaries in Louisiana. We looked at the 19th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina yesterday. And today, meteorologist Riley Blackwell is looking at the historic track of Hurricane Ida.
But only just a few years ago, back in 2021, Hurricane Ida also made landfall in Louisiana, first making a couple of landfalls on August 27th in parts of Cuba as a Category 1 hurricane at 80 miles per hour, rapidly strengthening into a Category 4 hurricane, making landfall near Port Fortune in Louisiana. It is second only to Katrina for the most destructive hurricane to ever hit Louisiana, also tied with Hurricane Laura and a hurricane back in 1856 as the strongest hurricane to ever hit Louisiana.
A non-native plant introduced to the southeast to help protect dunes from hurricanes is now a major nuisance. It is called beach vitex, and Michael Owen met with a team of researchers who are working to solve the problem.
Native to the Pacific Rim, beach vitex was planted locally after Hurricane Hugo in 1989 to help with dune erosion. But it did the opposite. It lacks a fibrous root system, meaning it doesn't trap sand. It also grew too well, overwhelming native plants and harming wildlife.
It can grow right over a sea turtle nest. And so they didn't know, when the hatchlings come out, they might actually not be able to get out through that tangle of beach vitex. And in some cases where it's growing so thickly, the female sea turtles, when they come in, they might not even nest there.
A massive undertaking to eradicate the plant, with more than $800,000 in funding, took place from 2003 to 2011. Believing they had removed 99% of beach vitex, their program ended. But it turns out it's harder to kill than they thought.
The seeds are viable forever. Roots, you can grow back from little bits of roots. So it's such a tenacious plant.
And because of how hardy it is, they need the public's help.
We need the public to do is to report where they're seeing beach vitex. So on their property, it can occur, streets back from the beach, and that's a problem too, because if you have a plant growing a bunch of seed, even if we take it all off the beach, one good storm might wash that seed right back onto the beach where it's going to grow again.
And because beach vitex blends in well with local vegetation, it's hard to tell them apart. The key is watching for purple flowers, round leaves, seeds, and how it grows.
It's distinguished by upright stems that grow in sort of a bush form, or it also grows on these long runners with a woody stem.
The Labor Day getaway ran into some speed bumps across portions of the Mid-Atlantic on Thursday. The golf ball-sized hail fell in Sterling, Virginia yesterday afternoon. It was part of a system that brought severe storms to the region, and it appears that the weather impacted air travel. 27% of departures from D.C.'s Reagan National Airport were delayed yesterday. 15% have been canceled. A New York library was badly damaged by a historic storm. More than a week later, we are getting a look at this incredible video showing the floodwaters and the destruction that they caused. Kurt Semder has the story.
The sheer force, the buildup of water that collected, popped out one of the windows in the lower level, and then all of that water just made its way throughout the entire library building,
flooding the entire basement level with a rush of water. It took down a wall and toppled over objects in its way. Luckily, the library was closed and no one was inside.
You could see the force of the rainwater literally bent the steel studs here.
More than 10 days later, the building remains without power and the damage still being discovered. The major concern? The Long Island History Collection.
We have items in here that are priceless.
Like a letter signed by Thomas Jefferson or the original deed to the town.
This right here once held all of our maps, and you could see that the water is still.
Once staff was able to get back into the building,
they quickly removed the most important pieces, and when I tell you this entire room, every surface was covered.
It's hard to imagine just how much water flooded this basement, but when you smell the mold all these days later, it really puts it into perspective. Library officials tell me they expect this space to be renovated and usable by spring of 2025.
Countless beaches are getting ready for an influx of people hoping to enjoy the last official days of summer. But meteorologist Ryan Munn is reporting that there is still some time to enjoy some good weather at Maine beaches.
Visitor-wise, this summer as a whole has certainly gone as expected here at Old Orchard Beach.
There was a little bit of a slow start in June, but everybody seemed to have a really good July. August seems to be going just as good.
If you do plan to head to the beach, it's always important to keep an eye out for rip currents.
This weekend, the current report is that the surf is not going to be that big. So more than likely we won't have any, but you never know. Any given day, Mother Nature could throw something at you and there could be rip currents.
Thinking beyond Labor Day weekend, September can also be a great month here in Maine.
September is a better month. The ocean's the warmest it is all year. The weather's always nice. The crowds aren't here, and the rates are much lower than they are in July and August. So it seems to be a real strong fall.
So get out there and make those fall plans.
And now let's check the forecast in some of the cities AAA says are the top destinations this long holiday weekend. Seattle, Washington is topping AAA's list of top Labor Day destinations. Visitors to the Emerald City will not be disappointed with the weather. It should be sunny right through Monday with temperatures in the upper 70s to low 80s. Orlando, Florida is the number 2 spot this weekend, and it is pretty easy to see why. And it shouldn't be a surprise that scattered storms are in the forecast every day. High temperatures there will be in the upper 80s. The Big Apple is 4th on the destination list, and there could be scattered storms today and Sunday in New York. Monday is the clear pick of the weekend. Highs will range from the mid-70s to 80s. And the city by the Bay is number 10 on AAA's list of top destinations this Labor Day. It looks dry all weekend in San Francisco with highs in the upper 60s to low 70s. Coming up on the National Weather Desk, there were a lot of sightings of the northern lights this month. We'll look at why the sky was putting on a show.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. We have another beautiful day on tap in the Northeast. Today, high temps will make it back into the 70s. We have low humidity, comfortable temperatures, a lot of sunshine. Courtesy of high pressure, there'll be a few more clouds back into New York and also New Jersey and parts of Pennsylvania. Next weather maker in the Northeast will be that front approaching on Saturday. Most of us will get into some showers. There's a slight chance for a rumble of thunder. Some of these showers may linger into Sunday through parts of New England.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Lots of clouds lingering around for your Friday. Looks a little bit drier. A stray shower or two may pop up toward your afternoon, but temperatures will be a little bit cooler. And going into Saturday, looks like that's going to be another day of shower and thunderstorm activity, especially the second half of your day. But temperatures a little cooler for your Friday afternoon, only into the 70s to low 80s, relatively speaking. It is going to be cooler, but Saturday we're back to seeing warmer temperatures.
Good Friday morning, meteorologist Michael Ehrenberg with a look at your southeast regional forecast for this Friday. Heavy rain and storms for coastal Texas, including Houston, as a low continues to spiral into that area. Local flooding possible, and that will extend into southern Louisiana. Meanwhile, the rest of the southeast will have your typical showers and storms popping up in the heat of the day and then kind of winding down as we go through the mid and late part of the evening. Very hot across the interior, mid to upper 90s, Tupelo to Nashville, 90 for Atlanta, and 90s just about everywhere else.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
The Great New York State Fair is underway in Syracuse, and it runs through the long weekend. Temperatures are hotter at the fairgrounds than in surrounding areas. As meteorologist Violet Skybor explains, it's due to the urban heat island effect.
What that means is in urban location, the temperatures heat up hotter than the suburbs. And this is because the greenery helps to keep the air cooler. Also, other things in the urban locations add to the heat. Cars, buildings, factories, dark rooftops, which retain heat. Same for asphalt and concrete, which absorb a lot of that heat and just bump up our temperatures. It can get another 10, 15 degrees warmer than those suburb locations. And that's because the greenery in the suburbs adds to the cooling. We have a process called evapotranspiration, and any moisture on the greenery evaporates and helps to keep the air nice and cool. At the fairgrounds, lots of pavement, and that only adds to the heat in the air, but also the ground poses a threat. Because of the heat and also the sunshine, we have to have a sunny day. Say on Tuesday, when temperatures got close to 90, concrete can get up to 125, asphalt 140, which means skin can burn in seconds. The reason why asphalt gets so much hotter than grass is because of three things. Albedo. Albedo is how dark something is, and asphalt is darker, absorbs more heat, it's more dense, and it has a higher heat capacity, which means it heats up higher. So this is why we're seeing hotter weather at the State Fair as opposed to the suburbs.
And Maryland's hot and dry summer is impacting flowers across the state. Meteorologist Amy Aronson spoke with a flower grower to find out what they had to do this year to make sure their flowers survive the heat.
Come with me to Belvedere Farm in Fallston, Maryland, where you can find fields of fresh flowers. Elizabeth Harlan now runs the farm and says the growing season is still underway.
It usually lasts until early October. Whenever the first frost comes, that'll be the end of the growing season.
It's been quite a summer, though, in Maryland. Too hot and way too dry.
Yeah, extreme heat, not very much rain at all. It's really hard on them. Some of the varieties thrive in that amazingly, but most of them suffer a bit, or they come out a little bit smaller than usual.
Ideal conditions are much different.
rain a couple times a week, and weather in the 80s is great. The zinnias love the heat, so 85 is great for them. We don't need cool nights in the summer. We need it to stay pretty warm.
Since Maryland hasn't seen these perfect conditions, the farmers have had to change up how they care for the flowers.
We've resorted to watering with buckets this summer, like bringing water up here, watering with buckets, especially the new plantings, things like that. Trying not to plant them in the heat, like the extreme heat, like the super hot days, just not putting any new plants out here. And then just hoping for the best. I mean, there's a lot you can't control.
Once these beautiful blooms are cut, they need a couple more things, and they typically last at least a week.
Well, once they're cut, I guess they need clean water, and they need a clean cut at the bottom. So when you take them home, you want to change the water when it gets cloudy, and you want to cut off the very bottom of the stem a little bit to open up the waterways for them to drink more water. And they'll last. We try really hard to make our flowers long lasting. They should last at least a week. Some of them last more than a week.
And August was a big month for the Northern Lights. They appeared multiple times in the U.S., once as far south as Texas. Meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell explains why the aurora borealis was so visible this month.
Well, hi there, everybody. Another August night, another round of the aurora borealis. The colors have been fantastic again from the Pacific Northwest, including from Matt Seifert out at Ocean Shores. That's right along the Washington coastline. No light pollution out there, at least relatively speaking. So the views were spectacular with the greens and the purples there dancing on the horizon over the last couple of nights. Equally awesome in the interior, this photo captured by Amber Braxton on that same night. You can see the Milky Way above and the Northern Lights dancing down below. Beautiful purples and greens also on the skyline out of Whatcom County. That's right near the Canadian border, courtesy of Sean and Amy Wheeler the last couple of nights. And another picture, this was from Crystal's 19-year anniversary. She said her and her husband were able to enjoy that great view of the aurora borealis dancing over the waterfront to celebrate their anniversary. So we keep seeing the Northern Lights, it seems like every couple of weeks, and there's a reason for it. Where have these come from out of nowhere compared to years past? Well, it's part of solar cycle 25. It means there's a lot of activity going on right now around the sun. This happens roughly every 11 years, and it tends to lead to geomagnetic storms here on Earth. And I'll say we've seen beautiful displays of the Northern Lights through much of the Northwest and much of the country, for that matter, throughout most of the summer. If you've missed the last couple of rounds of the aurora borealis, there's still plenty of chances and opportunities to see them again. Scientists think that this solar cycle will last deep into 2025. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell.
And now is the time for a segment that we like to call Social Meteorology. That's where we share social media posts from our team of meteorologists across the country. And we're beginning with Tara Blake and a recent Instagram post about heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
Because it's so late in the season, I want to remind you of what it feels like when your body is overheating. There's two separate categories. We've got heat exhaustion and heat stroke. So if you're out at a ball game, you've got kids practicing, you're just in the backyard with the family. If you start to feel a little bit lightheaded, you're really starting to sweat more than normal, even getting a little bit of the clammy skin. You feel like your heart is slowing down and even getting muscle cramps, you've got heat exhaustion. You gotta find cold water and air conditioning to cool your temperature down. The more extreme is when we get towards heat stroke. So if you start to get a throbbing headache, you're no longer sweating, you get dry skin instead, you're noticing your heart beating fast, you want to make sure that you're calling 911. In heat, it can happen that fast.
Blue skies to the southeast, storms to the northwest, and sandwiched in between is me with a gorgeous rainbow in the sky. And actually, if you look close, it's a double. Rainbows are the product of the sun's rays passing through and reflecting and refracting off of water droplets, which is why we see them after storms. Each color is a separate wavelength of light that is refracted in our eyes, so it doesn't actually exist in any specific spot in the sky. It's an optical illusion.
Have you ever stopped and wondered why the sky is blue? No, it's not the reflection of the ocean, so let's dive deeper. First, we have to talk about sunlight. Now, normally when we see sunlight, right, it just appears white. But when it passes through a prism, we see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. Water droplets can act like a prism in the sky. The molecules of Earth's atmosphere actually do a really good job at scattering about light, such as oxygen or nitrogen. Now, the reason why we see a blue sky is the blue light wave is shorter in wavelength and can be scattered about more efficiently than any other light waves. So this process is called Rayleigh scattering, and it's as simple as that.
And it's time now for a short break, but first we're going to soar over glaciers in Iceland.
Well, a very good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. We're going to be dealing with some rain across the Midwest, working its way to the east as we go through the day. By the way, it's College Colors today, National College Colors Day. Go Buckeyes. Rain continues into the Ohio Valley as we head into your Saturday, and then by Sunday, most of the Midwest is dry and mostly sunny on Sunday. Any early rain to the south there, kicking out of here and setting us up for a really nice Sunday and pretty good for Labor Day as well on Monday.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Starting off with a little rain and some cooler temperatures up in North Texas at Amarillo. Everybody else generally into the 70s, warmer as you get down toward the south and the coast. Cold front will be pushing south today. That'll fire up some rain up across North Texas, Oklahoma. We'll see moisture move in from the Gulf for rain for Louisiana and mostly East Texas. Summer-like temperatures will make a return once again. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Friday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. As we head into the grand finale of August the next couple of days, the heat is going to bloom and blossom over the western U.S. Going for 105 today in Vegas, 90 in Spokane, 67, still some fog, keeping San Francisco cooler by the city by the bay. Look at this big ridge of high pressure building in over the Four Corners region. Severe clear air all the way through the Pacific Northwest. And that's the scene from here.
College football is back, and meteorologist Katie Morgan has the football forecast.
We're going to start on the East Coast. A lot of these games are actually going to be in the afternoon. One, Clemson versus Georgia. This one in Atlanta. It is in a dome, but looking good for tailgating. Temperatures will be around 90. Penn State taking on West Virginia in Morgantown. I do see a few showers and thunderstorms here, and temperatures look to be in those mid-80s. Then we take a look at the Miami versus Florida game in Gainesville. Looking at some pop-up showers and storms. Game time mid-afternoon with those temperatures hovering in the low 90s. A few night games that we're looking at. One, we've got Notre Dame at Texas A&M. That should be a good matchup. College Station, a chance for showers and storms in the evening hours with temperatures in the mid to upper 80s. Idaho at Oregon. This will be at Eugene, and looking at temperatures in the mid 80s. Looking good on the West Coast with a few clouds possible. Then we've got a Sunday matchup for college football. USC taking on LSU in Vegas. Mainly clear and feeling hot, but a dry heat, of course. Temperatures will be in those upper 90s. Excited for the college football and the NFL season, which will start next week, of course. I'm meteorologist Katie Morgan.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Lindsay Mastis. Make it a great Friday and have a wonderful Labor Day weekend.